everyone. Welcome to the third module of the course, which is focused on market research. This module is going to give you the basic understanding of what is market research, how is it done, and when should we be opting to do market research based on the cost-benefit analysis. So let us start off with understanding what is market research. Market research basically refers to any process which is well designed with the aim to get a quantitative output which could be used as an input to make marketing decisions. So market research, it revolves around gathering data based on different processes which are the part of market research, then analyzing that data and coming up with certain intelligence which is supplied to the strategic marketing team and other members involved, who can then take adequate decisions based on the input which my market research report is providing to me. Now, whenever we do market research, it could directly be talking about consumer behavior, which could be like what will happen if I reduce the price by X%, what will happen if I increase the amount which I am providing in the product by Y%, or it could be based on the target market where I am either trying to enter or I am trying to increase my market share. So I can broadly classify the focus of market research in two categories. One is the target market, one is the consumer behavior. Both have their own different purposes, and depending upon the purpose, we will arrive at the steps required to do the market research to achieve the objective in hand, and then move to the execution of market research. Now we have been talking about market research process. What exactly it is, where does it begin, what are the basic components of it, what is the end result of the market research process. So the most integral part for initiating any market research process is defining the problem in hand. Now this problem could be, how do my customers react to a XYZ offer? Why is my market share not increasing despite all the efforts being made? Why is my profit not increasing despite the increase in the revenues in a particular geography? So there could be a variety of problems which, as a marketing unit, you may be required to address. Now, depending upon what the problem is, you will come up with the statement problem which will form the basis of the entire market research process. Now, once you have defined the problem, then you will develop the approach to solve that particular problem. Now, while you are developing the approach to the problem, the most important aspect which you need to take care of is what type of study is required to be performed here. Study could be very exploratory in nature, it could be descriptive in nature, it could be causal in nature. So it depends upon the type of the problem that whether you need to go for an exploratory type of study, descriptive or causal. Descriptive is usually used where you just need to increase the information of the team, and it is more or less qualitative in nature. Causal is the one where you are trying to find out the causes of certain results which are already known. And the exploratory is one in which you are trying to explore the results based on a certain trigger which you plan to introduce in the market. So now, once I have finalized my type of study, I will go on and develop the appropriate research design which I need for the execution. This will include coming up with the right methodology to reach out to the right people who can help me doing my research. Now, once I have identified those set of people who are the most appropriate one for me to get the answers, I will come up with the most adequate questionnaire which I need to ask those people. I need to remember here that my questionnaire needs to be very crisp, clear and bang on. It cannot be beating around the bush, because any person who is answering my questions will not have a lot of time to give it to me. He will have a limited time. Also, within that time, I need to ensure that the efficiency of my questionnaire is at its highest. And that can happen only if my questionnaire is crisp, clear and on the target. Hence, questionnaire design forms the backbone of the market research process. Now, once I'm done with the methodology, I'm done with my questionnaire design, it is the time for me to move to the field and go out and interact with all those people, all those stakeholders whom I have identified to help me in the questionnaire. Now I will collect lot of data. I will go to as many respondents as possible, as many stakeholders as possible, and try to have a very comprehensive sample size. Now, once I have my answers for all the questions from all the respondents, my task would be to collate that data and analyze it. I will use different mathematical tools to analyze that data. The most basic tool could be a Microsoft Excel to Excel modeling, to some of the latest CRM tools which are available out there in the industry. And based on the analysis of the data, I'll come up with a report which is going to go to my marketing strategy team. And at times, I may be required to present that report as well, because it is me who has actually worked on that data and I actually know the basis of everything which I am putting forth in that report. So preparing and presenting the report forms the concluding output of any market research process. So what started off with defining the problem, developing the approach, selecting the study type, and then moving to methodology, to the questionnaire design, to going to the field to get the answers, to analyzing the data, ends up with preparing and presenting the report. So I can say that defining the problem is the initiating point, working on the data is the middle point, and presenting the report is the final outcome of the market research process. Now there are multiple types of market research which you can do. Now broadly, irrespective of the kind of market research which you are doing, I can broadly classify them into two categories. One is the basic market research, one is the applied market research. Now, the basic market research is more or less revolving around just expanding the horizon of my knowledge. It might not have any specific problem statement to address to. Its problem statement will be very broad in nature, very qualitative in nature. It will not be quantitative in nature. So for the basic market research, my problem statement could be find out the different players in this particular segment offering ABC service. So here if you see, there is no quantitative output which is desired of my market research, but it is more or less revolving around expanding my knowledge. However, when I talk about applied market research, it revolves around a quantitative output for a very specific real life problem which my company might be facing. Now, one of the examples of applied research could be, should McDonald's introduce Italian pasta to its menu in Indian market? So if you see, the problem is very specific. Should McDonald's introduce Italian pasta in Indian menu? Or say some another example could be, should HUL launch a high-priced bleaching kit in its product line? Should HUL introduce a high-priced bleaching kit to its product line? So if you will see, these are the very specific problems, very quantitatively data-oriented problems which need a very data-driven answer to arrive at a conclusion. So these kind of statement problems, they get into applied research category. So I'm sure now you can classify understanding by reading the problem statement that whether you will classify it into basic market research or applied market research. Also, not every time it is feasible to conduct a market research, because every time we conduct a market research, it comes at a certain cost. The cost could be time related, the cost could be financial, the cost could be resource, the cost could be criticality. So I need to have a proper standard operating procedure in place to determine whether I should be conducting market research in a given scenario or not. Now the first and the foremost thing which I will check is, do I have sufficient time in hand? Because every market research process is going to take some time for me to execute and to come up with the results. So first of all, I need to understand, do I have sufficient time with me? If I don't have it, I will not conduct market research. Once I'm sure that I have sufficient time available with me, I will check on the availability of data. I will first of all check, do I have inadequate information with me or do I have adequate information with me? If I have inadequate one, I will not proceed with market research because it may come up with some misleading results. So I will ensure that I do have adequate information in hand. which will form the basis of my market research process decisions. However, I will also analyze that whatever information I will be able to arrive at after market research is done, will that be adequate or not? If that will be adequate, then I will go ahead with my market research. If that will be inadequate, I will not go ahead. Then I will see that whether the decision which needs to be supported is of a strategical or a tactical importance to my organization. If it is, then I will proceed with the market research, because then I need very concrete inputs. But if the decision is not of a strategic importance, I might decide not to go for market research to prevent the cost associated. Now suppose if I have time in hand, I know that I require adequate information as a result of the market research, as well as that the decision which is going to be taken is going to be of the strategic importance. Then I will come at testing the final parameter, and that is the ROI of the cost. Will the information which will come out as a result of the market research have the value more than the cost which I am going to bear in conducting the market research process? If that return, if that value is higher than the cost which I am going to bear, then I'll go ahead and conduct my market research. If it is not, I will not conduct it. So what are the 4 things which I check for deciding whether to go for a market research or not? First is the time constraint. Second is the availability of data. Third is the nature of the decision. And fourth is ROI on the cost associated with market research. If I get a yes on all these 4 parameters, I go ahead and conduct market research. So with this, we come to the end of this module on basics of market research and everything which you need to have the initial understanding about the market research. So thank you for joining this module. Look forward to interact with you in the next module. Thank you.